Welcome to today's review of First Minister's Questions by the Three Men in a Bog crew. We're down to the hardcore three here today. Mr. Grant, I don't think he's in England, he's had a meeting. And how was sunny Englandshire last week?
Well, it was actually. It was very nice and warm, yeah, and it was good to see my mum. And I was at my nephew's 18th birthday, which was very, very good. That was very enjoyable.
Any politics while you were down there?
But I went outside to look for a brick wall because I was going to get some more sense. It was, people that are intelligent, have professional jobs, and but we're paying for your free education and we're paying for that. I goes, no, you're not. That's how we've chosen to use it. And you're looking at it and you think, no, might be a professional, but there's a lump of lead between the ears. Well, the propaganda works. This whole idea,
Absolutely.
You subsidise people. I say, sorry, we pay more tax in.
Should there be a yes vote, there's going to be an awful lot of unhappy people that suddenly have to go, wait a minute, why is our balance of payments? We should be richer, Scotland's gone. How come we're not?
Yeah.
What's going on? Oh, you were lying to us.
Yeah. We pay a higher percentage of tax than anywhere else. I think
Northern Ireland puts a lot into the pot as well.
But southeast and London put in a lot. But then when you have a look how much they take out, everybody is subsidised in London and the southeast. I mean, you even had that the other day where the idiot Boris and other ones were saying that we up here, our tourist board, should be advertising London.
Promoting
London. Go away. Well,
I like the way Boris Johnson is either gave or is giving the annual Margaret Thatcher tribute speech. Makes you want to poke.
Mind you, just one on that. There is something that we could be using for London and that with our tourist board, and that's to tell them that the A1 comes to Leith. I mean, if you get on a train at King's Cross, you'll come to Edinburgh. Yeah, I don't mind them advertising that. That's fine.
Yes, and gentlemen, today's First Minister's Questions. I think I'll just give a little bit of background to the viewers if you didn't actually see it. Accusations of dishonesty were made twice by Joanne Lamont, and the Presiding Officer censured her on the second occasion.
No, she censored her twice.
She did censor her twice.
And never withdrew.
And there was no withdrawal.
She asked her for a withdrawal.
And I'm just gobsmacked that she wasn't told to sit down and shut up by the presiding officer. She's far too soft. I'm sure that fellow Bercow would not have put up with that.
Well, she was asked to withdraw it, and she didn't withdraw it. And if you don't withdraw it, you do that in Westminster, then you leave the chambers.
Well, what she said was, "I'll take the First Minister's advice," I think her words were, and then just carried on. It's weird. To me, it's just strange that she was banging on about the idea of two oil funds. One a saving fund and one a hedge.
Can we just finish this issue? Because it's a parliamentary procedure issue. You're accusing someone of lying.
Yeah.
And then Ruth Davidson accused the government of cheating.
The point I was going to make is that Alex Salmond could quite rightly have turned around and accused her of exactly the same thing.
But he's using moderate language.
But his ability to think on his feet and be aware of what's coming out his mouth meant it was never going to happen.
No. Well, think about it. If you put these two, they obviously colluded, Tory and Labour. They both attacked, they both went for dishonesty, cheating.
Deceit, dishonesty, cheating.
Oil fund.
Words used.
And bear in mind the appointment of the new, hardcore Secretary of State, Alistair Carmichael. Going to be a bit of an attack dog.
Well,
it sounds very nasty to me.
But add it on to virus, all the rest of the stuff. I mean, it shows there's absolutely no substance. I mean, if he isn't telling the truth and he is being duplicitous, then come up with it and give us the concrete answers and accusations against it. But it's all cheap smears.
But it was the point you made during when we were watching it about cherry picking. They are cherry picking both sides. I mean, but they are cherry picking elements. The problem she has is she just gets upset when Salmond bests her, and that's why it happened.
It was a reaction to, she attacked she blamed the SNP for bringing down Callaghan's government, and it's this strange history that Scottish Labour people actually believe. It's not true.
No, it's not true.
It's not true.
But it was a vote of no confidence.
Yeah.
And they failed to mention it was followed by what do you call it? Vote. What do you call it? An election. Sorry, a UK-wide election that put Thatcher in.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened.
But as Phil pointed out, it was the anti-devolutionist Labour Party members that brought the Callaghan
It was the
government
Scottish Democratic, no, the Northern Ireland Social Democratic Labour Party voted to bring them down as well. So it's their own comrades. There's absolutely no way that the nationalists have ever been part of the Labour camp. They should look to their own. If the Northern Ireland nationalists had actually gone along, well, yeah, nationalists, but social and democratic nationalists, had gone along with Labour, then they would have been in. But then it was Labour's lying and duplicitousness over the 1979 referendum that actually brought it about in the first place. Yeah. So it's called, like, I mean, sorry, if you put a gun in your mouth and pull the trigger, you're going to blow your head off.
And Joanne Lamont was anti-devolutionist member of the Labour Party at the time. It's on the record.
Yeah, so actually, he should have...
She brought the government, she brought Callaghan down, having her palms.
Yeah, he could have...
Which brings me to the point.
She got angry.
And because it wasn't scripted,
yeah,
she went all unparliamentary.
Mm-hmm.
She's not very parliamentary anyway.
This woman is hoping to lead the Scottish Parliament.
Oh, God. I mean, actually, I actually think she's a closet member of the SNP. And I actually think that it's a plot by the Yes campaign, by putting her in as leader there, because everybody will look, scream and go, no way.
There's a guy who interacts a lot on Wings Over Scotland, Scottish skier, whose theory is that it's all a big plot by the Tories to get rid of Scotland. And every now and again, they'll do something incredibly stupid, and it'll be Scottish skiers' theory is looking good.
But the whole basis of that thing was with the fund and the contingency fund. And at first I thought she was actually doing it in an intelligent manner, because looking at Norway, which does have higher levels of tax and higher levels of spending and a very substantial fund, but they can do all that because they have higher levels of personal tax, a lot more than we do. Most of the Scandinavian countries.
Same thing. Never say that without also saying they also have much higher levels of public services.
Yes, yeah,
and much higher levels of wages.
Public spending.
Higher wages, better standard of living. They live longer. They're happier.
Yeah, that was then answered by page 4, which she'd omitted, and it was also answered by Swinney, the thing from Swinney, on basically the finances permitting to set these up.
You see the trouble, and let me just put all right. So today was all about this possibility of an oil fund and the impact that might have on an independent Scotland. But it was classic. You know, I woke up early this morning, turned on the TV news. Every BBC news from Scotland led with the words of Alistair Darling. In other words, what Joanne Lamont pumped away. Basically, she knows she can carry on doing this, and the BBC will just parrot. That's why she does it.
There's
it's
a clue in the name.
Media.
Yeah, it's a clue in the name. The British.
I mean, for me, I just have this feeling in my water that no are running scared. I mean,
of course they are, because that's what
this week they get rid of Moore and bring in Carmichael, who's supposed to be some sort of
attack dog,
liberal attack dog, which is a bit of a contradiction in terms for me.
In any case, he didn't have the reputation before, so why did they come up with a spin?
Well, he's an obese chihuahua then, isn't he?
What he does, he is aggressive. I mean, in a debate situation, he would be, I don't know if he'd be more effective, he would be more aggressive. Michael Moore, to me, I mean, they've lost the last man that I had any respect for on the government no side.
Well, you could be right, but Scottish skier could be right then.
Yeah, well, really...
They just keep shooting themselves in the foot.
I mean, the papers, well, the intelligent commentators in the papers made the point that Moore left Salmond without one of his main weapons. Because Salmond enjoys that. He likes the rough and tumble. He's quite happy to go toe-to-toe. You can't do that with a reasonable man without looking like a bully.
But the fact that they're not being reasonable, and these accusations, slurs, and really undemocratic behaviour, is irrespective of a yes or a no. And if it's a no next year, this is going to totally change Scotland, because they are going to divide the country literally down the middle, particularly by their tactics. There'll be another referendum at some time, and there'll be, and these uses of the word virus and everything else. It's almost like they're trying to incite violence.
To my mind, they're trying to create a similar situation to Northern Ireland in the early 1900s.
Yeah, they're trying to incite.
Well, I mean, it's what they know. I mean, they're using the tools that they've used forever. I mean, it brings us quite neatly onto this flag thing at Stirling.
Oh.
Who sat down and went, here's a really good idea.
Let's fly the Union Jack.
Let's create a stushy about... It's not even the Saltire. It's actually Stirling's flag, which is the background of which is a Saltire, but apparently there's a line rampant on it. But it is the Stirling Council flag, apparently. And it's like, wait a minute, what a really good idea. Let's stick a Union Jack up there and piss everybody off. Everybody. In Stirling, the centre of Scottish history, fly it above Wallace and Bruce's statues. I mean, if you really wanted to cause bother, that's what you do.
Yeah, but then there's more of it, and they're all getting. And the whole point is actually, sorry, I would load up their tanks for more of it. You had George Robertson. Right? Well, I've got my independence here of Catalan independence. I've got a T-shirt on it. Now, he was in a debate, and he was and he could quite understand how the Catalans wanted independence. Why? Because the Catalans had their own culture and their own language, and you're thinking, really, a brain transplant? He's spent too long hanging about with NATO and other warmongering types of people.
He hasn't. One thing about George Robertson is he's been consistent right from the start.
Yeah,
consistently wrong as
yes.
well.
And consistently nasty.
He actually admitted that in the debate.
Really?
Yeah, he admitted that he'd said that
devolution
would destroy nationalism dead. I was wrong about that. So you were, George. Why don't you shut up and leave?
But how many people do you know? I mean, as a percentage of Scots, where you say to, we don't have a language in Scotland. We have languages, because it's full of different ethnic groups.
Scots.
Yeah, and the whole idea that Scotland doesn't have its own culture. I mean, it's sorry, it's laughable. I mean, what are they trying to do? Are they all really secret members of the Yes campaign?
It's just, I mean, your earlier point about the papers basically parroting whatever they say. And continually people say online, in comments, had that been a member of the SNP, a member of the Yes campaign, it would have been front page news. And we know it would have been front page news. And I'm just waiting for somebody on the Yes side to go, right, here's a letter to my lawyer, I'm going to say this and this is what's going to happen. The day before it's said, stick it in a safe, say it and watch the papers. And then bring the letter out and go, there, that's why I said it.
Mm-hmm. But did you notice the other thing that came up as well, which was that question from, what's her name, Rhoda something or other?
Rhoda Grant,
about the simple fact, they're screwing the NHS employees in England. Sorry, you're not getting that rise that we said you were getting anyway. And they're also having a look at doing in their increments as well, which they all get. And then suddenly, because the Scottish Government is going to give that 1%, and I've no doubt they'll still be getting their increments, then suddenly, that's wicked, because they're going to give something to managements who've had their wages frozen.
It was a bit vague. The attack, she thought her best attack was to say, well, management got their pay rise.
No, it's the difference between 1% and 4%.
Yeah.
All right.
Is essentially what she
but she lost that argument because Salmond just came straight back and said, well, what did Liam Byrne say just last week? That they want to level out the NHS across the UK and make it all the same.
Yeah.
What's this about devolution? The NHS of Scotland was set up independent in 1947.
Yeah. So levelling out, that means...
And based on a form of NHS in Argyll and Bute.
Well, the whole of the Highlands.
That had been there for many, many
years. It was a Highlands model of handling
of
health
course,
services that was expanded to cover the country.
And what they mean by levelling out is making people pay for prescriptions, for putting out to tender GPs' practices, and
Making
everything else.
49% of public hospital beds available for the private sector, which is what they've now done in England.
Yeah.
49%.
They've gone from something like 7 or 8% to 49% of public hospital beds are now available to the private
30% of all services in the English National Health Service are now provided by the private sector. It's the Americanisation, it's handing over. Yeah.
Well,
so,
I'm
So
sorry.
she really shot
I'm
herself in
sorry.
the foot.
Well, even independence that's going to cause problems because people will come over the border.
Well, there are issues there are ways and means to deal with that in any country, but it's certainly an issue.
No,
that-
there isn't. Not if you're in
that
the
leads you
EU.
on to Ed's little story about the woman that went to Liverpool to get. Oh, and it just shows. Well, sorry, she's always been able to get treatment in Liverpool, and if she was in Liverpool and came up here, she'd get treatment. And if you come from Estonia, you'll get treatment, or wherever you
Oh
come
no, they
from.
want to limit all that now.
Oh, in England, yes, of course, yeah.
But let's focus on today's. We've had an interesting discussion. I'm not regretting where we've gone, but we've been less focused than we usually are.
Well, just keep
Let me-
an eye open on it, you know.
Yeah, right. So I watched an FMQs which was, as I say, I said at the beginning, we had behaviour that is not acceptable in Westminster, and normally we don't look at Westminster as a good model, but I'm constantly appalled at the lack of discipline by the presiding officer, and that nothing seems to be done.
I mean, you know exactly what would happen had she sanctioned her in any way other than just a verbal slap on the wrist. The fact that she's ex-SNP would have been all over the papers. Ex-SNP, presiding officer, sanctions, leader of the Labour Party.
For accusing, for calling
It's not the way it would have been written.
Oh no, yeah, but the whole point is she still did it because otherwise, why bother having it?
Anyway, it was a pretty nasty First Minister's questions.
It was outrageous. I'm sorry, I mean,
Salmond kept his cool.
it was absolutely
And
disgusting.
And when he can be dull and confusing when it comes to economic figures because we don't all keep up to. We're not all economists. And but once he got into the second or third reply to any question, he just stuck in the knife. And no wonder Joanna got so angry that she broke convention and called him dishonest.
Well, I mean,
Twice.
before he got the boots in, she called him deceitful. So it was in her head.
And then Ruth.
Shows an empty head.
Ruth
actually.
come in with cheating, indirectly accused.
She was clever. She didn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't
she
as
ran
clever.
these reports through university cheating software.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
What was
Right,
it? What
okay.
it was her conclusion that was so woolly, having done so, which was quite shocking in its own to hear.
It's plagiarising
But
all the
these-
good
these
bits.
So what did you learn? There were common bits to both reports? Well, you would have thought so. That was the early report, and this is the final report a year later. You'd have thought there'd be bits in it, wouldn't you?
Well, the other thing
Innuendo.
is, that's what it is.
It's all innuendo.
Salmond didn't write any one of the reports.
No.
You know, and I mean, we're being forced to defend this like we're defending Salmond. So it is actually working, even on us who are supposed to be aware. We're not talking about Scottish government decisions. We're starting to talk about Alex Salmond decisions.
So,
And
There is a bit Marmite out there, as you know. That's what an awful lot of no voters. They don't like him. They believe all the hype.
there's another agenda under there if you sit and look. I mean, it's not been a conspiracy theorist, but sit and look and why are they doing it? And you're getting it from the no camp as well. I mean, this bit you're talking about more devolution. Well, they're not talking about more devolution. They're talking about taking powers away from the Scottish Parliament and handing them over to councils. And all this with deviousness,
Taking
dishonesty, and
NHS
everything
powers
else.
back.
It'll be so that if they do get a no, it'll be to do in the Scottish Parliament. You've had unsubtle
Oh, they'll
people
emasculate.
like Tam the Bam and Kelly and all that to say that they should abolish the Scottish Parliament. Don't forget, they can abolish the Scottish Parliament whenever they like.
People don't realise
No.
that. I think a no vote will mean they'll heap responsibility
And no money.
onto the Scottish government without
Make them
the
raise their
tools-
taxes without the
without
powers.
the tools to solve the
Yeah.
problem.
Aye, I appreciate, understand that as well.
And that's the way they'll destroy it. I don't think they'll be as overt as simply shutting it down. they'll just make it impossible for them to govern.
You could be right. Well, look,
this is how nations
Women never
actually
get
split
spoke-
up, and this is how people take to the streets. This is how you get things like what happened in Yugoslavia. This is how you get things that happened in Northern Ireland. But they're all so up their own rear end about their own little thing. They aren't actually looking at the nation as a whole. This will end definitely in some nasty tears. at some point.
There'll be a university somewhere in America that will be watching this from the point of view of propaganda. There'll be somebody doing a paper on it. And 4 or 5 years from now, it'll be looked at, and there'll be a whole swathe of Scotland who'll go, what? How did I get taken in by that? How did I end up believing that? And it'll end up being a book that every politician reads.
it's turning in what's. I mean,
Getting really nasty.
Yes, and there was a nice letter in today's Herald by a unionist who's actually shocked by the sacking of Michael Moore, shocked at the direction of travel of the Better Together campaign. He says himself, he's still a unionist. It was a letter published by a regular contributor to the Herald. It's starting to be noticed
Well,
how nasty this Better Together campaign is.
It was quite funny when, well, I'm going to call him an old style. He probably isn't. Labour, the leader of the No campaign with Google. It was amusing to watch this basically dinosaur attempt to do what the Labour Party used to do to one another. You know, I mean, the black ops and the continual nastiness and so on. I found it quite funny because he looked like he was stuck in the dark ages. Now it's not funny because they're all going to do it.
Well, basically, they moved Moore out of the way so that, and they're just getting. Well, we can expect. Well, don't forget, we've got the SNP government's white paper coming up very soon.
Yeah, next month.
On
isn't
in-
it?
Well, that's part of the reason, because I think what they're doing is they're putting people in place who will simply lie.
Yeah, they'll just say and repeat it and parrot it, and the media will just parrot it and parrot it.
Yeah.
And I can't. It's hard to imagine the effect of these. I worried all right from the start of this, the official campaign, or the Edinburgh Agreement, around about that time, a year and a half ago, or whenever it was, that the No campaign would resort to nasty.
I mean, on a personal level, I mean, my intention was to do what I do. This, the cartoons, the other contributions I make online and so on. I'm now at the point where I'm saying, no, I want to get out in the streets. I want to get out there and put leaflets through letterboxes. I want to talk to people. And I think there'll be a few people who kind of have been sitting in the background a bit, contributing, but not feet on the ground. And because there's nowhere else to go now. The press are not, I mean, honourable exceptions. The Herald's been quite good. There was even an article in the Scotsman this week that was quite supportive. And because there's not another outlet apart from the internet, I mean, a number of people that come into the pub and you talk about it, and they believe everything they read because they're not on the internet. That, I mean, sort of the generation above me especially.
Yeah. And even the people who perhaps are on the internet, but they're not social media, because it's nearly all social media you get the truth on. Because even if you go to the main news sites on the internet, you're just getting a repeat of what you're getting on the radio and TV.
There's one particular guy, Vic, Vic, the bus driver, Vic, who parrots what he reads in the paper. And I took my iPad in specially and went, okay, read that. And he went, well, that can't be true. I went, right, okay, read that, read that, read that. And he's like, well, but if that's true, that means, yeah, penny dropping now, you're being lied to. You know?
You'll see that really is, and it's one thing. I mean, I've had with, it's the one major drawback with democracy. Numpties get to vote.
Yeah.
There should be some kind of competency test.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, right.
That was a joke, folks.
So that, I mean, this guy I'm talking about, well, people I'm talking about are not numpties. They're not stupid.
They're self-deluding.
But they
really,
have
in a
one.
way, yeah.
No, they
Yeah,
work
must be.
with one source of information.
Yeah.
You know, and if it says Rangers 132 and Rangers 132, why shouldn't they believe the headline that says Salmond murders children and eats them?
Oh yeah.
And that's a huge one. And it takes me back to what I've been saying for a long time. We need to find a way to put hard copy on the streets. And not that. Have you seen the Yes newspaper?
No.
No.
No, there was one.
A Yes newspaper, no? Oh, it'll probably be a best one.
It's
Just a
1,
newsletter.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages, 2 folded broadsheets. It was handed out at the meeting the other week in Leith, and it's. Bleh.
Sorry, the Yes campaign's relatively dire. Actually, both campaigns are quite dire.
Right, let's have some scores here. We'll start with you, Phil. Alex.
I thought he was, on very good form today. He could have lost the head, with some of the really unparliamentary behaviour going on around him. I'll give him an 8.
Okay, Joanne,
No.
any explanation?
It's quite obvious. She started off quite well, and I thought she was getting there and leading for the tax. But
Yeah,
it
it
was,
was nice.
it was, and the black eyebrows.
He'll talk about Ruth.
It was the smear. I mean, it was just it was.
It was unparliamentary
It was
behaviour.
very It was very, very nasty, and it's not what
a
it.
thought.
I'm sorry, there was just.
Was there a single man, apart from Alex Salmond, spoke at question time today? It was all women.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Fair enough.
No, I just thought. I'm sorry if, as the leader, I might rephrase. No, 0.
Presiding officer?
Well, actually, she should have bitten the bullet and asked to leave the chamber if she didn't apologise. So I'll give her a -5 for not doing her
Right.
job at all, really bringing it into disrepute.
And your friend Ruth?
Ruth, I'll give 2 because she did try it in a jokey manner with the little bit about I ran that through, and it wasn't delivered in that visceral, nasty look. It was very visceral, very nasty from Joanne. Just, it's not what I want to see in a leader of the Labour Party. Thank you very much.
Norrie.
Not really not happy with Joanne Lamont. I mean, on 2 levels. One, she's not good enough.
No.
If she can't obey the rules, if she can't stand on her own 2 feet and talk off the cuff and think while she's speaking, she shouldn't be there.
That's true.
She certainly should never lead the Scottish Parliament. Can you imagine her under attack the way Salmond's under attack?
Should
is-
have
I'm
been
sorry,
Ken.
today, nail in the coffin for me.
I was disgusted that Brian, what's his name, the BBC reporter who
Oh, he's
sums
always-
up,
He's always
didn't make. He made a very short comment about what had happened, but
Yeah,
no
it
sense.
made out it was a two-sided rally. It was not a
It was not.
two-sided rally.
He's a
No,
consistent
it was a disgusting
arse
piece of
anyway.
unparliamentary behaviour by the Tories and the Labour Party, who had obviously got together
Yeah.
before
Well,
the.
Oh, maybe not.
So, I mean, I'm going to give her -5 because she not only wasn't effective, she damaged her own position, her party's position, and the No Campaign's position. It was totally out of order. Alex Salmond, yeah, I don't think he intended. I don't think he intended to wind her up that much. I mean, it was a fairly off the cuff.
She went off message by accusing the SNP of bringing down the Callan government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was, as usual, far smarter than she was, and was much
I
able
don't-
to rejoin.
I don't think he'll have walked away thinking that was a good thing. I mean, when I mentioned earlier that it was all women that asked questions, I don't think that was a mistake. I think you're going to see that because it's going to be difficult for Salmond to put the boots in,
I understand that.
you know.
He just looks like a bully.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think he'll be all that pleased that she lost the plot.
Maybe you should take a holiday and put in Sturgeon for a wee bit. She'll put the boot in.
Ruth Davidson. I'm sorry, there's enough fronts to attack the sitting government. I mean, there's always the NHS, there's always education.
Procurement
You
bill.
know, there's lots and lots of ways to go. Why repeat what Lamont said? Lament.
Yes, well, lamentable Lamont.
Lamont.
She was a lot more subtle. I'm not sure that people who aren't anoraks like us would have picked up the cheating. I think that would have skimmed. You know, that was kind of for the journalists. But it was said, and it was wrong. If you start that, there's nothing at all to stop Salmond turning around and saying, I'm sorry, you went to the Tory conference and lied about figures.
Well, he did, but he
didn't use the word
he
lie.
was very clever. He used Peter Jones's demolition of her in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And specifically said not something I would say about Ruth Davidson.
And did you see
that's the quality of the man when he does respond to these vicious attacks. He comes
and
back.
She had a Beamer on as well, by the way.
Well,
she looked like it had hit home.
That's going to be a problem, because she lied, manipulated figures to get to a point that she thought would make her popular with basically the English Tories down south, thereby undermining, as far as I'm concerned, Scotland. The result down the line is what worries me. The way it's going, in a way the No campaign have already given up too much ground, and I think they've got to the point where they've decided they're just not, truth or not, they're not giving up any more ground.
They don't have any more, they don't have a positive case to make, so they're just going to stick to Project Fear.
They're going to gang up and start kicking living shit out of it, whether it's true or not.
A score for Ruth?
I'm going to give her nothing.
Nothing. A score for Alex?
I'll give him an 8. He was actually better than an 8, but I think he'll be sitting wondering if he should really have quite gone as far as he did.
What do you feel about the presiding officer score?
As I said earlier, her position's difficult. As an ex-SNP, she will get accused of backing the SNP, which for me, there has to be a thought in her head about stepping aside, because the other guy is quite good. And his discipline action would be more acceptable.
So would hers.
But
it would have.
I agree with Phil. Regardless of the criticism, she should have forced an apology.
Absolutely, should have forced an apology.
Because what she's done is she's left the door open.
Well, it's bad behaviour, and
she's condoning it. She's condoning it.
I'll give her a -2. I would have taken more from her, but she has got a difficult position, because there were accusations, because it wasn't the SNP's turn to chair, was it? They kind of forced her into it.
Yeah. I'm going to score Joanne Lamont.
You want to call her Lament.
Lamont. Used to be a Canon Lamont in the town where I grew up. So it must be Lamont. The other one's Lamont. Changed his name.
She's a double lammy. Lamentable Lamont.
Well, there you go. Joanne Lamont, I thought, was despicable, unparliamentary, lost the plot, and I'm not going to go minus, I'm just going to give her 0. I mean, it's just, she's not worth scoring anything for. I'm going to give Willie Rennie a 5, because he didn't get asked a question, so he couldn't make a fool of himself.
It would have been interesting to see what he did with that.
The presiding officer, I have to agree, I think she's useless. I'm going to go -5 on her, because that was appalling, just to let Joan Lamont away with that. Ruth Davidson, again, she shot herself in the foot, because she came up with this. She suggested there was cheating involved by using this term, university cheating software. She claimed there was cut and paste in both documents, and then came to a conclusion that was absolutely woolly, and you had to have been inside. Only in a Conservative Party loyalist meeting would you have come to the conclusion that she made, because the conclusion was so woolly it didn't add up. You'd have thought Joanne Lamont would have been on her feet telling her that what should go to the back of the class.
Just call him a bloody liar.
I know. So I mean, Ruth. What do I give Ruth? No, nothing. I mean, it was to call cheating, deceit, all this kind of stuff going on is just
I was the only one who
unparliamentary.
actually gave her a score, but because she did do it in a very professional manner.
She
didn't come along
very
as
professional. That's her job.
nasty,
I'd
serial. I'm
I'd
sorry,
like, I'd like to give Willie a 5 as well.
Okay, Willie can have a 5 for you.
yeah, I suppose, right, yeah, I'll give Willie a 5 for
Well,
10.
he's going to get a good score. He's certainly
Not
going
getting
to. It
questions.
looks as though he's going to come second this week without getting us a
Oh,
word in.
Matt's having a laugh on
Alex.
it.
I thought he was superb, absolutely superb. Because no, I can't give him a full score because when he gives his economic figures out, he's always, his brain is just a level above the rest of the world's understanding of economics, unless you're an economics graduate. So that aside, no, I'll give him a 9. I thought the way he put down the Callaghan government accusation, the way he put down the... Instead of simply attacking, he didn't simply attack Ruth, when the normal thing is, well, your government down south is doing so-and-so, so how dare you attack us up here? No, I thought it was top line on that. And he handled the backbenchers questions very well as well. So, well, we have total scores. Ruth Davidson, +2. Wait a minute. No, I haven't added them up yet.
Yeah, well, she's got
+2.
two zeros.
Willie Rennie +15. Presiding Officer -12. We've never had scores like this, but that reflects
Oh, it's really bad, isn't it?
the shocking parliamentary behaviour today. Joanne, she ends up with a -5, and Alex gets 25.
25.
So it's 25 to Alex, 15 to Willie Rennie, who didn't get to speak, +2 to Ruth Davidson, -5 to Joanne Lamont, and -12 to the presiding officer, who should have censured.
It's quite interesting that the presiding officer, who was the policeman of it all, got -12, and Joanne Lamont only got -5.
We don't expect too much of her.
That's really what it says, doesn't it? We do not expect much of Joanne Lamont.
We don't.
She's given a green light for her to do that again. She was asked twice, and she actually treated the presiding officer with contempt
Exactly.
by basically ignoring.
You just can't imagine Bercow putting up with that, can you?
I mean, it was her
John
comment,
Duncan.
I will take the advice of the... No, you weren't asked to take her advice. You were asked to make
withdraw.
an apology.
To
To
withdraw.
withdraw.
Well,
You
gentlemen,
didn't.
that's been an entertaining First Minister's questions, and I would say an entertaining discussion today. I hope you, the audience, agree. And tune in next week. And thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. And goodbye.